Hey, welcome, welcome everybody to my discussion of ReZero Season 3, Episode 1. Probably gonna do this in a way that I will cut the final video. I have lined up my webcam and my normal camera that I use to record all like the 4K videos and whatnot, and I'm recording with both. I'm also recording the screen twice, so I don't know how many recordings I'm doing. Either way, just to make sure to be able to control everything when I'm gonna render the video and everything. So there is that. We can also probably send a little bit of a message to YouTube to see that we are live. Okay, let's jump into it. All of you on YouTube probably not gonna see this. Yeah. We start on a blue sky. Not a lot to say to that. We do have the training course. Subaru has been training himself in order to become more capable of a knight. You gotta love to see the character development of just going from season 1, where we had a person who mostly pretended to be training but didn't really just make the minimal effort in order to look like he was trying to do something, to somebody who's really trying to be capable, really trying to live up to those expectations. And I do feel like that is in part probably also due to Garfield, because he's kind of trying to get in on that, right? Trying to find some kind of way to get stronger, and he is probably pulling Subaru along. But yeah, Subaru getting himself ready, and we do see the whip, which is a new addition, right? And he seems to be pretty accurate with it. So even if probably he's gonna whip Reinhardt, Reinhardt's gonna be like, bro, what are you doing? It's just the whip is gonna be afraid of him, right? I mean, not really, but this is how it feels oftentimes. Nobody serious is gonna get hurt, but maybe he'll be able to kind of just Indiana Jones himself in one or two situations where he can just use the whip in a clever way to get something done that he would otherwise not get done. And I think it's a bit of a shame he isn't training the sword, but I guess he just realized that in the end he isn't as capable of the sword as other people around him, so there's that coming in. But we do see the effort, we do see the energy, and we do introduce the element that has been introduced at the end of season 2, which is Berko being now his partner in crime, basically, and being a way more supportive. But I do really like that we keep up this atmosphere of let's just bash Subaru a little bit, right? Because it's fun. It's like the fun dynamic between the two of them, and if that didn't exist, I do feel like we would be missing something, and it would fundamentally change the relationship of the two of them. We already have that next step where she's like accepting of like, hey, yeah, I'm with you, right? I'm kind of supporting you all the time. But if they're among themselves, they have very interesting and nice banter going on, where it's kind of a little bit reminiscent of their old relationship before they did the contract, but now there's this added element which makes it a lot better, right? A lot of that is standard animation right here, but nonetheless very adorable. And I feel like oftentimes when I read the light novel, for example, no spoilers by the way, don't worry about it, I said that in the beginning. When I read the light novel, these moments were really precious to me, because we do have so many moments where there's high stress situations, where there's a lot going on, a lot at stake, a lot of dying, a lot of suffering, a lot of just complicated situations with adversity, with all of these things, that these little moments, these are the ones that Subaru lives for, right? These are the moments that he wants to protect, the moments that he wants to multiply, the moments he wants to make more of a common occurrence, and the moments he wants to exist in the future after they've went through all of the troubles that they've went through in getting what they wanted, right? Emilia for her goals, Roswell for his goals, right? Ram, whatever. And these are the little moments that build our not build our relationships, but that that confirm our relationships, that have us just our soul almost healing. And we've had a full year of this apparently, at the very least off screen, and it's already a great thing to know that. It's already a great thing to just know that Subaru and Otto and all of the other characters that we've come to love, they've spent this time to actually recuperate, to manage their stuff, right? Otto now the official like interior minister of the camp, to build relationships and keep them up, to work on themselves, but also to banter, to spend time with each other. We do feel in these beginning moments that they're already closer to one another than they were last season, and that is a great thing to establish. The banter going on, this is like a real obstacle course, like hello. I mean, I would be able to do it as well, but it's like, this is not something easy, especially if he's doing it at a very steady pace. And here we have like more of that absolutely adorable relationship, because she's not like completely rejecting him anymore in this way. She's just this back and forth going on between the two of them, but when it comes to showing affection, it's actually being taken in and it's being reciprocated, and that is a great thing to do, right? That you can switch on the fly, that it shows that you have a great relationship with somebody, that at the same time you can just kind of trade minor insults or jokes back and forth at each other's expense. But then when it comes to just one person seeking that comfort, right, that closeness, that this is something that you're willing and able to accept just like that and be like, yeah. And Petra actually also still being part of all of that. I love, I don't know why, but I love the pose she's doing here. I guess it's like the thonk, but even that, right? Even in that capacity, it's really fun. So Mimi is being introduced again, obviously, as one of the combatant forces. We have all of these characters, right, that we meet again, that we've seen in season 1. After season 2 was very much isolationist, right? After season 2 was very much us working on our own shit, right? Us developing on our own, because I feel like this was needed, right? This was needed in a way that we had to solve these issues before we could go out again and interact with other people and make our case for the throne, basically. And we still have issues to solve, and this is probably what we're about to tackle in this season, right? I think these issues, they had to come up sooner or later, and this is the perfect time to actually solve them. I do love a lot of the artistry. Most of the beginning portions are relatively straightforward. Nice to see Ram as well, although I don't know how much we will be seeing of her since she is not with us in Priscilla, in the Watergate City. But nice to see her usual attitude of just being like, you're late. About time that you showed up. And we have that little back and forth between the two of them. I almost sometimes like that Mia, like her, right? Just throwing it out there. But that is the way she is bantering with Subaru. That's her being close to him, basically. In my evaluation, my personal opinion rule. Love it. Absolutely love it. And like I said, like Garfield coming out, I was like, hey, this dude looks, right? I mean, maybe it's just minor changes, but he looks a lot more mature from what I've seen. Maybe it's like the hair being down on the one side, and as opposed to like him having just that like wind haircut basically from last season, but he looks a lot more put together in a way. Although we've seen, like in this first episode especially, he isn't all that put together. He has new issues that are coming up that we're probably gonna be trying to solve. It's also the eye, right? The eye is like a little bit narrow on this side, while it's open on this side, right? I guess it suggests openness on one side, right? You like taking everything in, and on the other side there's a little bit of cleverness in there, a little bit maybe also of seasoned nature, basically. I do love this frame, right? This is a great frame. Almost rule of 3, right? We do have the windows in the back, which are kind of representing the sky, with Otto standing there being like, holy shit, this dude. Subaru, can you, right? And then we have the middle portion, which is the social space we are in, which is the couch and the other couch opposite of it, the table and the two characters facing one another. And then we have the backside of the couch, which is kind of providing that third layer. It looks very pretty as we are zooming in, and it's just like there's a lot of depth to the shot, I feel. Subaru being like, oh, I'm being called the knight, the official knight. Yes, I've earned my position. Emilia's like, she's happy about that, right? Him being happy about it, but Otto is like, holy shit, can we move this along, right? Again, cool shots, something in the, right, I think it's like a chalice or something, or like a flower pot. It's in the front, it's out of focus. We use that to focus in over that on the characters themselves, like a camera would do in a natural space. And he conducts himself very well, right? He's learned the etiquette, and he's from Anastasia's camp, right? With Julius and whatnot. He's Julius' younger brother. We see later on he's absolutely in awe of his older brother and is putting him on a pedestal. Subaru kind of just starting to say bad shit about Julius out of habit, and then just stopping himself and putting it into the very positive as like to compensate for that, which is absolutely cool. Again, a lot of more characters. Most of those we have met already. One new character who's introducing us kind of to the plot. It's like, let me speed it up a little bit more. And we kind of cleared the air about Beatrice. Some of the people already know who she is and what she represents. Others don't. It's like the misunderstanding of like her being the two of their, like Subaru's and Emilia's kid, and then he's like, yeah, of course. Emilia's like, stop that shit. Don't. And she's surprised like that. And being way too honest, right, with her, like, I know we kissed and all that, but I looked it up and it's actually not that. And he's like, you're kind of telling about yourself by being so honest, but this is one of her best qualities, right? That she is so honest with you, that she is so upfront, and maybe sometimes it's to her disadvantage, but oftentimes it makes her very endearing. Oftentimes it also makes people underestimate her, which can be advantageous sometimes. And yeah, in general, it's a really, really great trait of somebody who doesn't mean any harm, right? Somebody who has a lot of good in their heart. We do the premise, right? A little bit of Julius swooning and a little bit of introduction between our two characters who apparently later on kind of go to the city together, which is Mimi and Garfield. She has such an energetic and just breaking your barrier kind of aura, which is reminiscent of what most children would do with you, right? A lot of like energetic children would go towards you and just completely break your social barrier. And that for children, right, it's kind of endearing. For if grown-ups do it with you, you kind of get that weird feeling where for some of them it works, right? If you yourself experience this behavior as comfortable to you, right? Because you feel you like the person, or the person is comfortable to you. But if there's a grown-up, an adult that is behaving like that and you're not sure about their intentions, or you don't like them as much, then this comes across as crass, right? As violating your personal space, your social bubble, basically. Because she is so young and adorable and all of that, she's kind of just breaking through that. And it's kind of like how you can oftentimes just not be mad at a child being super in your face about things, and they're just wanting to show you things, and maybe they are kind of a little bit annoying, but you're like, I can't really, right? I can't really be mad at them because it's just who they are, right? And they're just interested in all of that stuff. Again, the premise, a big magic crystal that is supposed to help Emilia house Puck again, because Puck is maybe it's not as well explained here in the episode itself, but the implication here is, and this is what the light novel also just says basically within that section, that Puck is free right now, right? He's not dead or anything, he's just roaming around, and to actually be able to house him, or at least use that crystal as kind of like a catalyst, you need a very special crystal, right? Because he could be in that small little thing from like Frederica when Subaru used it, I think in episode 16 of season 2, shortly. But after that, he had to, like, the crystal kind of couldn't contain him. That's how I understood it. So we need something special in order to get him back, so he can talk to us again and actually interact with us again. It's a temporary, right, barrier between Emilia and Puck, which makes perfect sense because it could level the way for more development on Emilia being independent, right? Because otherwise Puck is always going to be like the father figure who is standing behind her and being like, I got your back, right? I'm here, I'm gonna fix your problems for you, because Puck is also very overpowered. So it's understandable that the author would take Puck out for a while and be like, okay, now you need to handle yourself. And once that settles, right, at some point in the future, we're probably gonna have him come back, and then it's gonna be a tearful reunion, right, a very emotional thing, and they'll have a lot to talk about. But in the meantime, Emilia herself, she grew a lot as a character, and that is the intention, I guess, at least from what I can tell here. But yeah, we're introducing more parts of the family of the different people here. It also shows that Anastasia is pretty, or Anastasia, I don't know how you want to pronounce it, is pretty knowledgeable about everything that's going on, right? Because this is the thing, the Emilia camp has been mostly closed off for a year after the sanctuary thing, at least that's how I understood it. So the fact that she knows the Puck thing, the fact that she knows what kind of crystal they need, right? The fact that she brings that up, it's like she is really good with her information network and knowing everything about everything, right? Really, really nice frame, really great frame of all of them saying their goodbyes. And I did point that out during the reaction. I really love that frame where the shadows are over her eyes, right? It suggests that there's something weighing heavy on her, and half of her face is in the dark because she's kinda low-key hiding it a little bit, not like completely hiding it, but like holding back and not sharing it with the rest of them. And there's still some light on here, like with the sunset and whatnot. She's ruminating on the crystal itself. That's kind of soothing behavior we sometimes display, right? Kind of, some people do it with their earrings or with their hair or kind of their chest, right? Depending on what objects you have that are important to the specific thing you're thinking about, right? And she's closing off, right? The hair is creating the barrier between her and the world, so she's closing that off to everybody else. Subaru seeing that from the behind him and being like, damn, that is kind of really weighing heavy on her. And we talk it out. I think that's really great that they have these moments where they just sit down over tea and they talk about shit. I think that's kind of showing where the relationship went after the finale, when he was announced at the night and whatnot. He's like comparing it, like the Watergate City, to Venice. It's very interesting because she corrects him and she's like, it's like on a lake and whatnot, and right, there's like walls around and whatever, but the canals are kind of really like Venice. So it kind of makes sense in a way, but also not. It's unique in its own way. And as we're talking about Watergates and water, we're focusing on the teacup, which could be representative of the walls surrounding the water, right? I do love how we're going from the red into the blue and then flashing to Roswell. Also a very nice exchange of gazes between the two of them that shows their relationship. Yeah, red to blue, and suddenly boom, Roswell is going into the frame. And also we're only showing the mouth, which in the beginning, which is like him being a schemer and whatnot, but he's not scheming that much actually at the moment. He's just following along. I'm sure he's gonna have his plans going on later on, but hopefully mostly in our favor now and part of our camp, and he's just meddling to get us to the point where we want to go, because he pledged himself kind of to Subaru, even like with his soul, if I remember correctly. I do love that little expression here that she has with the teeth when it comes to throwing up smoke screens, right? Yeah, sure, Subaru, I'm not sure if that's something to brag about, that you are the distraction in debate always. A couple of casual shots really being cool, but we're gonna go past that. I love that change to the night shot with a very symmetrical mansion, with the only asymmetrical thing about it is the moon being on the right side of the screen and shining down. It could be right behind it, and then it would be a completely different frame in terms of the atmosphere, I feel. I definitely always love the blue hues of the night, but that is a personal preference of mine. Otto getting casually drunk just by having to do his fucking work. Meaning like, you all motherfuckers. The white flowers, right? Purity. But also like the other flowers, right? The reddish pink flowers, and I think also the blue flowers, that kind of represent what we've seen in season 1 of ReZero, when we talked about the red and the blue Oni, or ogre, how it's been translated back then. And this is like an amazing shot. I mean, it might not seem like much to a lot of you, but if you look at the shot, it is him being very small as opposed to the door. The door is imposing, right? The door is looming over him. It's like he doesn't want to step through the door frame. He feels anxious about stepping through it, right? And he's gonna do it. He's like, he's being very nervous about just stepping in without something coming from the other side. But he knows there's nothing coming from the other side because he knew what he stepped into. And this is also something very atmospheric. Her lying in the moonlight, right? Sleeping, basically, natural thing that you do during the night, sleeping, right? And the moonlight kind of shining on her, like it's almost like that faint glimmer of that sheen of hope that he has, that at some point in time this is gonna change, right? That she's gonna open her eyes and something's gonna happen. But he's saying his goodbyes because she's gonna go over. I did love this display when he started to talk to her, and then we snap out and we don't even need to hear what he's saying. He's probably said it 1,000 times. This is not an important conversation. The part that's important is not the conversation itself. It is that the conversation happens, right? You don't need to know what's been said here. Garfield just running by us like the Naruto, and I can't get over that. Krush with the green color, Anastasia with the purple color, classic little panel here. And we're talking it through, right? As your internal affairs officer would brief you probably on what's at stake here and why this is good and this isn't, and this is making him nervous. He's doing his job and he's doing it well. And look how far Otto has come, right? Like from a simple traveling merchant, just making a living and hoping to have a business at some point in time that's bigger. He went to being the internal affairs officer for one of the candidates of the royal selection of one of the biggest countries of the continent. So yeah, that is one hell of a step up. But yeah, we're talking through a little bit, like very brief backgrounds, and I think it's good that we keep it brief just to kind of touch up on everybody and say, oh, this person exists, yeah, and they have been doing this, right? What the candidates have actually been doing. I think it's very interesting that we also focus on Priscilla. I think there's a side of her that we do not know at all, and we've seen like glimpses of it at the end of this episode when she actually danced and she was like favorable towards somebody for once, right? So we have a very skewed perspective because we are part of the opposition of her, and she takes that very seriously. And also maybe because we show behaviors or we have characteristics that she herself doesn't appreciate, that she thinks is bad or weak or whatever. There is reason to her madness. She's not just like an arrogant bitch. She is, but she's also more than that. She has her own thoughts. She has her own ideas. She fancies other things. And she can be very charming, I can imagine that. Manipulative in a way, right? But in a way that people want to follow her. Otherwise, she wouldn't be as revered in some areas as she is, according to Otto. And Felt has her appeal too, right? The slums of the capital, probably the slums of the entire fucking country. The people who feel downtrodden and poor, who feel mistreated, who feel like the rich are just gorging themselves on them, who feel like life is hard and justice is not part of this world. They are behind Felt because Felt is like, I'm gonna change things here, right? I'm gonna restructure the entire country, right? And everybody like who has treated us unfair is gonna be in dire straits. And that is a noble goal for many people who feel like they have been left behind by society, by larger society, right? And by the nobility and all of that. And she is kind of a person of the people, right? Grew up in poor environments, grew up having to fight for her life, grew up learning how it is to be down there and having to struggle day by day. And this is why she has been amassing all of these people who feel sympathetic to that or can relate to that kind of life. Right? We flash back here. It's very nice how Amelia's gaze goes down a little bit and cloudens almost, right? We would say clouden. Also very cool that while we're talking, right, and while we're having that, the way the angle we look at Amelia's face is having the left side of the screen be cut off by the curtains, right? And behind the curtains is something red, which is kind of almost representing hostility, something negative, something that hurts, something painful. And then we flash to Duchess Karsten with her memories being lost, and she has not been moving, right? She's had been trying to recuperate, right? Trying to kind of reconsolidate all of the stuff that she's been doing beforehand, which is not easy, right? If you don't remember anything, especially if it's not coming back either. This is like a supernatural amnesia. What was that? I actually missed one of those lines here. This dragon-drawn carriage, and then he's representing the metaphor. He's like, we're all part of this, right? We're all doing our part. Although the thing he mentions Emilia doing is like talking nicely to everybody and telling them what a good job they're doing. It's like almost like, what are you even doing, right? But yeah, emotional support is important as well. But I think Emilia is capable of a lot more than that. Although it might be one of her strengths, right? Like her honesty on the one hand, on the other hand, her ability to try and motivate everybody, to have empathy with everybody. This is a beautiful, beautiful shot, right? We look at the Watergate City, Priscilla, and you see how it's like almost a funnel, right? It's going inside, and in the middle there's that plaza, right, that we've seen, where all the waterways are meeting, and we have the 4 towers, and we have like 4 roads going in at the specific towers, and the towers are supposedly there to control the water and how it flows, right? The mechanism that's behind that. And we have the Watergate City supposedly is also very much has a lot of medias. We've seen that medias being those kinds of devices that are supernatural or that imitate supernatural things but are possibly technological or mechanical, and we can kind of guess maybe some of these are inventions that come from people who have been transported to this world, because we've seen signs of people being transported to this world before. And there's also a couple of people that we've met that possibly have been, right? That is also a thing. The light novel extrapolates on some of them it doesn't. So very interesting to see. Maybe this is going to be coming up, right? Now that the anime is in full swing, maybe we'll see some scenes that older arcs of the light novel in around season 1 or 2 have been dealing with, and like extrapolating on some characters, and maybe this is being done right now. If it's not being done by the end of the season, maybe we'll have a talk, right? And I'm gonna be like, okay, this is the big light novel talk, catching up talk, kind of. This is what they left out, basically. I don't know if I can be comprehensive enough for that. I don't know if I have all of the knowledge about that, but either way, really cool with the big doors, and it's like a fortress, basically. But then when the gates open, and this is a beautiful scene as it's done, right? We open the gates and there's shining light coming in, because normally you look at something relatively dark, and then the shining light is coming in, especially from the glistening of the water surface, and it looks so insane from like the way it bends, and there's gotta be some magic involved, right? And we see, like, I do notice that some of the stuff that has been CGI in the trailer is now more or less hand-drawn, which I really appreciate. And you do see, like, the structure. It's one thing to read about this and see one panel that's showing a part of that, right? Like, the light novel had a panel that was showing that specific river here that's flowing downwards. But it was showing it from that perspective that we had earlier, right? This one. And to actually move in that 3D space, to have multiple kind of views on the thing, it gives you way more of an idea of how the city is actually being constructed and how it looks and whatnot. And most of these things are kind of how I imagined them to be, but not all of them. Some of them are not. So this is really cool. And it's kind of Venice-like, as we can see from like the surface up. And we're explaining that the water dragons here are a lot more common here, which makes perfect sense, right? They're kind of, in the light novel they explain it's kind of a relative of the ground dragon. They're kind of similar species that just developed in different directions. So that is cool. And we arrive at what seemingly is a Japanese inn, which is really, really neat. So we do see influences of Subaru's world, specifically even Subaru's country, in this isekai, right? In this new world, in this different reality. Also a cool frame, right? When we look from the rooftop is out of focus, and we're having our characters in focus, as if somebody's peeking from above the rooftop or right looking out from a window of the inn. And there's Anastasia, which, again, look at the shot. These are some really cool shots in terms of like how direction is done. Anastasia being in the foreground, slightly out of focus, and she's kind of framing in Subaru and Emilia, who we're looking at. Betty being a little bit cut off here, but right, it doesn't matter. And then she moves dynamically over there, right? We drop it. Betty is in. She moves over. We see Garfield for a flash. And then Julius goes, and there's so many dynamic elements. Immediate reaction, this dude. But Dave, come on. You all like each other, stop being soon. Right, but he's playing along and he enjoys it, right? They both enjoy it to a major degree. It's just having fun together. And you feel that, right? There's no hostility anymore, right? Like it was in the beginning. Otto wanting to introduce himself, but Julie's being absolutely, she's like, whoa, there's a great spirit. And then they're introducing themselves. Betty being like, I guess I'm cute. She's not just saying capable, smart, whatever. She's also saying cute. Of course she had to add that. And she's like, give me pastries, please. Mimi being like, dragging Garfield along, having really taking a liking to him. Maybe because he's like has this tiger thing, and she's like, is like demi-human cat, right? That might be a connection point. And also maybe just because they jive well. She's also a very much capable, strong warrior, even though you wouldn't think that, right? Or not warrior, maybe more like magician, right? Maybe there's some more connection points that we still don't know about yet that we are going to explore down the line, because she seemed to understand him pretty well at the end of the episode. Otto is absolutely devastated that nobody wanted to know who he was, right? Everybody just forgot about him. Really nice atmosphere with the floor panels. We're not explaining it here necessarily. Well, we're alluding to it, right? We're saying like Hoshin. Priscilla was built by Hoshin, one of the great men who founded Kararagi. Kararagi is the neighboring country of Lagunica, which is the country we reside in, that we're talking about, like the dragon's country of Lagunica. And next to that is like the big merchant paradise kingdom Kararagi. And Priscilla, which is this, or Pristella, more like Pristella, is the city that is exactly at the border to Kararagi, which is very interesting. Kararagi was, by the way, the country that Rem and Subaru thought in their mind to run away to in episode 18 of season 1. That was Kararagi. And Rem was kind of musing that Subaru, with his inventiveness and whatnot, could make a couple of very interesting, powerful inventions, and they could live off of that, right? That he could be an inventor, which I guess is kind of what she projected out of Hoshin here being the big inventor of Kararagi, and kind of like building Pristella, for example, with all of the mechanisms of like the water gates and whatnot, and just bringing a lot of different culture, seemingly Japanese culture, to this world. And Hoshin supposedly is probably related to Anastasia Hoshin, who it sounds like she's maybe a descendant of him, or maybe just somebody who married into the family at some point in time, but she is related to him in some capacity. Hoshin of the wilderness, creative, advanced ideas, and Subaru muses he was probably summoned from another world. I do wonder, I threw that in but interrupted my thought. I do wonder why they are adhering to Japanese customs within that inn, but otherwise don't, because I haven't seen like Julius or other people from Anastasia's camp actually doing that. So it's very interesting how they do it within these confines, right? Within the building, like Julius's younger brother is doing here. But we are not seeing them do it outside, or haven't seen them do it outside. We haven't seen them do it in season 1 either, right? There was no indication that there is like some connection to Japanese culture and how everything is being treated. But yeah, we're putting the things on the table. I really love that shot, right? From down up, it shows that she has the upper hand in the negotiation, and she's like, I'm a businessman, right? All business-like, of course. And we do have like this sinister frame, which is like the man whose heart was stolen by the songstress. It's like obviously a drop that's supposed to be like, ooh, what does that mean? Also really cool with the focus being, the background being completely out of focus. She's completely in focus, very detailed, and her entire face is dark, right? So she's spinning the tail. She's in control right now, mostly also in control of the camera. Yeah, we swap over to Subaru and Emilia every once in a while, but the camera is more passive in their very situation, while in her situation, the camera always kind of feels like it is following her whims, basically. She's setting the tone of the camera, she's setting the direction, while Subaru, Emilia, etc., they're not setting the direction, they're just letting the camera passively take them in. Camera, right? You know what I mean. We do have that little boat ride where Subaru is getting absolutely nauseous. And Garfield seems to be really afraid too. I don't know why, because later on he jumps on one of those when he has to save the children. But I guess that's courage, right? It's just like, I love that. Fisheye lens, that really empathizes him being sick, right? Him feeling sick. A lot of pretty shots of the city. I love it. Betty staying with him, and they're going their separate ways. What a smooth talker. Yeah, sometimes he actually is. Sometimes he can actually talk pretty smoothly. Ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. And she's lost. She's like, no, I'm not lost, I suppose. And we're finding... it just dawned on me. The one girl that is making the Kamimashita joke, right? About I bit my tongue or whatever, is the girl we find when we are lost. Is that like an elaborate joke? Right, because I don't know if I remember that from the light novel. I don't think I do. But it could be that I forgot. Either way, like, this is a prime joke. Holy shit. And we're looking at, like, the... Liliana was her name, right? Liliana. And he's just killing the mood. He's just like... the lyrics are kind of like... And everybody was enjoying the song. They're like, shut up, dude. What the fuck? But then they're going, like, you actually have killed the mood. They're really going ham on him. I mean, he kind of deserved that. Betty is like, I'm not healing you. You kind of deserve that. You deserve what's coming to you. But she's very fiery, right? She's inspired by everything, right? She sees a thing, hears a thing, and she's like, I got a new song. I can't relate. Honestly, I can't relate. Yeah, I can be creative at times, right? When I'm doing thumbnails, I feel really creative. When I'm writing something, sometimes I like to write. I'm feeling really creative. But not like that. Not like, shit, I got something and then I just impromptu put something out. But that's just great. The doves, the display. The problem is, right, she's singing very lovely, but the text, again, is kind of like, please, stop. But that's because she recognized him, I think, right? Or maybe she didn't recognize him, but she recognized like their unique relationship, and then she's like projecting onto that, being like, oh, this is this kind of relationship. Like, but Subaru goes in, he's like jamming, right? I think that I really like that. I don't know if that was in the light novel either, right? But it's really cool. It's really cool that they start to just jam and sync up, and and go in one beat. And this is like an immediate connection point, right? If you meet somebody and you do that, right? You can't create something like that artificially, right? It has to happen naturally. But if it happens naturally, that's a great moment. You're like, hey, you and I are on one wavelength right now. That's really cool. Betty a little bit jealous, but she's also like, what the fuck just happened? What did I just witness? Songs transcend national borders. I agree. Like, music is something that is beautiful. Music is fantastic. Full zoom on the face. And she's introducing herself, and this is where the Kami Mashita joke comes in. Like, I was so not over this. I didn't even read those lines. I was like, holy shit, was that a fucking Monogatari reference? I feel like it kind of has to be, right? Monogatari reference in terms of like the Kami Mashita, and then even back before that, we have like Beako being like, no, I'm totally not lost, and then they are kind of lost, and they're trying to find somebody who's showing them the way, and then they open up to that plaza, and suddenly she is here, and she makes the Kami Mashita joke just like a minute later. Come on, it's gotta be a reference. But yeah, she doesn't like being called songstress, which is very interesting. I mean, I guess she's calling herself a bard. That might be a distinction. I'm not versed enough to actually say there is. And she's like just trying to get something out of that. But yeah, these are like some nice moments of banter. I don't feel like there's a lot going on here, aside from, you're like, no one creeped me out this much with just their words and behavior since Betelgeuse. Okay, that is a statement. I don't know if I'd sign it, but that is a statement. And this is when the white light flops. Also, interestingly enough, I just noticed that is a really cool frame. He's turning out of focus, right? You're like, we're starting out with her in focus and they're just going past her, right? While she's having her revelation, and she's like, wait, are you that guy? And this like little girl user, I mean, the joke works, but it was a lot funnier in the light novel when they actually used the term lollymancer, which is like necromancer, and like necromancers are often like controlling the dead and whatnot, and he's like just controlling all the lollies. He's like, here, Beako, and right. It was a lot funnier with like the lollymancer thing. But yeah, he's retelling his tales, which are pretty much on point, right? I think it's really a really cool way also to just flash back and be like, oh, remember that? Remember season 1? Remember season 2, right? Now we're caught up again, right? This happened. So we don't forget, like most of these things we probably don't forget. But first of all, the visual aid, and second of, right, to have it more vividly in our memory, and second of all, also there might be little parts that some of us do remember a lot, and other parts that some of us remember less, right? And it's different for different people, so to get everybody on the same page, it's very good to kind of just flash back for a second and be like, oh, all of that happened. And it also lets us know that even the sanctuary stuff is known in the world right now, right? Freeing the sanctuary, defeating Osaki, the great rabbit. This dude looks like an elf, holy shit, with like the the ears. But a lot of them are drawn that way. Emilia also has longer. I mean, Emilia's half-elf, so that doesn't count. I guess most of them are round, so he almost looks like an elf, holy shit. Either way, we go in here, goofy times, and we are introduced to this absolute menace to society. And chief of a merchant's guild that we need to or want to negotiate with. And he is doing the one forbidden thing that he shouldn't have done, right? Focus pull from them to him. Yeah, I thought so, right? That is a very effective, very cool focus pull. I mean, bro, in the light novel, I thought to say was like, what the fuck, dude? You're throwing explosive crystals in your own building after somebody. You need help. But yeah, we kind of botched it with him. But obviously, we couldn't have known that. At the same time, Subaru could have read the room, kind of been like, this guy is pretty much into the songstress, and I'm kind of just trying to restrain her here. How would that look? I mean, Emilia isn't mad, but she's like, you still should have, like, maybe shouldn't have done it. And then we get that scene. Damn. We get that scene. Right? We have banter going on, and suddenly the mood completely changes, right? We bump into somebody. That's a classic trope, right? Why is it a classic trope? Because the flow of conversation, just like the flow of us walking, is interrupted by this thing, right? Something stops us dead in our tracks. And then we meet for a second and we're like, don't worry about it. I found myself captivated. He's saying that like a moment later. It's like, oh, okay. And he wants to touch the hair, and then Subaru is like, whoa. Too far, dude. Just get your dirty hands away. He's like dirty himself. He's like, get your dirty hands away. He's not actually saying that, but it's like a hostile thing. I mean, he's still being polite mostly. And then we're making pleasantries and all of that. But we're never showing the eyes. Right? We're never showing the eyes. This is like a telltale sign of somebody. I mean, we already know that, right? From season 2, we know he's a bad guy. Beginning of season 2, he fucked up Ram and Cruise Camp and whatnot. Later in season 2, we see that he was involved in all of the like Elio Forrest, Emilia shit. So, holy shit. Yeah, and the darkness that is over his face. Well, Subaru is very much in the light. He's taking her hand, which is like a very interesting gesture. But she's looking back and she's like, I don't know, he seems familiar. And yeah, this kind of tells us that while she has lived through the recreation of her memories, it's not exactly one-to-one, right? And also she's only seen him for a very, very short time because she was taken away after that. And even though we saw what happened between Betelgeuse and him, right, for all this time and Fortuna and whatnot, what we didn't see, or what was kind of implied, is that while Emilia kind of gotten the information of what happened, it's also the case that she wasn't present, so the visual cues, everything, right, recognizability of characters, it is not a given. Right? She would recognize Pandora probably, at least now that her memory is restored, because she actually had a face-to-face with Pandora that was relatively long. She wouldn't recognize that for Regulus, and also there's the added fact that Pandora actually kind of magicked Regulus away as if he has never been there. So there's that as well. So she wouldn't remember that either. I still don't know what that power is. Is it like manipulating memories, right? Because you can't put people out of existence, right? It's like bending reality, but also it's keeping reality in other places where it's like, right, where it's convenient for her. So always liked Emilia's eye color, very pretty. Damn, did they upgrade her? I'm just asking. Did they upgrade her? The side view and whatnot. And we're having a lot of stuff going on here. We're seeing that actually a couple of characters are making a comeback. This is something I didn't expect when I first read it, that there is a couple of characters that we met very early on, had quick brushes with, right? That we don't have any reputation with, right? This is why he later is acting like, hey dude, don't be so chummy with me. We met each other one time and we tried to rob you, right? I don't know you, but Subaru knows them because like he's been through these loops a couple of dozen, I don't even know, maybe even more times when he was in the capital, and he's brushed up against them a lot of times, so he knows them a lot, but they don't know, they only know him from one occasion, so there's this disbalance again. Subaru closing that distance, going within that personal space, and he's going back. He's like, dude, what are you doing? We're not that tight, right? We're not that familiar with one another. I mean, he possibly recognizes him, but that's about all. Great framing. Look at that framing, right? Her in the front, right, with the two of them in the back. They use the space so well in terms of like how they show characters. That too. I mean, not quite as good, but yeah, so many details and different angles as well. And we start out with Reinhardt, the zoom up, and Garfield is going absolutely haywire, probably because he felt like the pressure, right? He's like, holy shit, I need to defend us. And he's getting absolutely destroyed here. Very, very cool camera angle, by the way, right? How we look up at Subaru. Subaru is the main subject. We do have Julius's brother in the background as like a side character. We do have like the whatchamacallit, I don't know how to call it, like the roof ledge of the little archway over there, and our other side character, I don't even know how he's called. I don't care to learn how he's called. I'm sorry, Richard or something, on the other side. And it's really cool how, or interesting. Well, first of all, we talk about this. Reinhardt and him standing opposed to each other, and he's having a real hard time to accept that he is absolutely useless against Reinhardt, which makes sense. How would you feel if you banked all your pride, all of your self-confidence on being one of the toughest people out there, right? And working on yourself to become even tougher, and then you meet somebody who you feel absolutely powerless against, especially somebody like Garfield, who has a lot of problems with that feeling of powerlessness. And then, right, great frame again, right? Garfield in focus, Reinhardt's hand out of focus, reaching into the frame basically, and Garfield going back because he's like, this friendly wave of Reinhardt's that is very unusual for somebody who is so impressive, so dominant, right? That he's so forthcoming and so friendly to everybody and has no temper at all. Basically also in a way, kind of the opposite of what Garfield is representing here. But yeah, Emilia breaks that, right? She breaks off that tension and she's like, it's fine. He's one of us. But Garfield looks down, he is flustered. Emilia being very friendly. See, this is kind of like a parallel from between Reinhardt and Emilia. Emilia is friendly on another level, right? And she's very forthcoming and open towards everybody, while Reinhardt is more courteous, right? And understands that discipline and self-composure are like at the very top of what he wants to do, what he is supposed to do. Also, I think I love it how we frame this entire conversation and shot, that we have the inn on the right side, right? We're almost home, but we're on the outside of premises and whatnot. We're standing on the road, and on the left side, we do see the backdrop of the city. Yeah, on the other side as well. And we ask what's up with him, and he's like, he's taking orders from him, which it's very interesting how Reinhardt is, that's what I wanted to say earlier, how Reinhardt is such a self-assured person, right? Obviously with his power level and whatnot, right? The amount of energy he has, the capability he has, all of the divine blessings and whatnot, he can easily be like, yeah, nobody's a threat to me here. But also how nonchalantly he accepts the ruffian behavior of all of the people who have never learned manners, who have always been like down there in the slums and fighting off each other, being nasty at times, being rude to one another, being aggressive, not having a temperament, and he just brushes all of that off with such an ease, right? Reinhardt could easily be a character that's super powerful and noble and whatnot, but has flaws. So far, there's very little flaws in Reinhardt, and this is why most of the story he is not part of it. At least that's what I think, right? Like, he's always conveniently somewhere else, right? Needed somewhere else. Great shot from the ceiling, looking at the lamp, and then Garfield coming in from that. We zooming in, and yeah, Subaru being, as always, very empathetic, very observant regarding all of that stuff. And we're kind of opening the curtain basically to Krush and Felix being here. Felix has a new haircut, I think, and it's looking really nice. We established a relationship, right? Grandson, grandfather. There's tension. It's weird, right? It's very cool that Reinhardt, we're all in the dark more or less, but Reinhardt is standing in front of the open window while Wilhelm is basically sitting at the table and staring at a wall. And we do have that sliding door as a physical barrier visually between the two of them. And then we go outside, the sun rays coming into the Japanese garden. Very beautiful. I love Japanese gardens, looking very... Right, we come for the reason of like the negotiation. We're gonna speed through that a little bit. Sharp look, I like it. Right, and obviously the pleasantries. I do love how we have these little moments, right? Emilia being relatively friendly and open, but we do have these reactions, right? Cocking her head a bit, being questioning and all of that. Right, and Krush not showing her face when she reveals the real reason why she is coming, right? Which is overlapping with what would be very important for Subaru as well. Holy shit, that dress looks great on Krush, honestly. She is a very one of my favorite characters, to be honest. Even also her personality, and so I like it. I like it a lot. I just figured Christian would have more interest in this matter than you, which I'm not sure if this was like a miscalculation by Anastasia, or if it's on purpose and it's kind of a little bit prodding into him and trying to find out how much he actually values that. I don't think it's mean-spirited in a way, but it might be a little bit, right, missing the mark on what she wants to do. It's like holding himself back. Julie is commenting on that, being like, oh, you've really grown, right? Back then you would have probably exploded, but Subaru is like, shut up, I'm so close to exploding. Krush looking down, but yeah, her being like, I thought we could both profit from this. That is absolutely great, I think. That smile, holy shit. Yeah. They continue to be really good friends. I do love that. Even that little, right, every movement of her is really great. And she's coming in with like the door frame. Wait, I didn't even see that. Right, let me just... Oh no, she's already in, so it was another frame that I've been seeing last time. But yeah, that isn't, right? She's coming in and she's like immediately demanding attention. This is what that camera is. Also, there might be some other ulterior motives with that camera angle. I hope it's not. Right? And she's not wearing what he wants her to, was like formal wear or whatever. She's like, I bought my own shit. Shut the fuck up. But yeah, this is her style, basically, and I love it. And she's being very courteous, right? She's learned her manners, and then she's like, anyway. And she's like sightseeing and everything. Anastasia's like, I can't with you, right? But she's very amused by that, and I love that. And we do have, maybe, hopefully, we're gonna get an onsen episode. Do we get an onsen episode? I don't know. I don't know if we do, actually. I mean, we could, possibly. Or maybe that's gonna be an OVA. That, like... Also, massage chairs, hello? Hello? But also, is that... I don't even know. I don't even remember if that's electricity or not. But if it is, holy fucking shit. The implications. Garfield kind of struggling with himself. But Subaru is like, it's gonna be fine. Let him ruminate on that, and we're gonna be fine. Beatrice is so adorable when she's just going past and she's like, notice me, hello, open your eyes. And he's like, holy shit. Jackpot. And yeah, double jackpot even. Actually, what I think it's neckline. He is one for the neckline, I guess. I mean, me too. Looks really good. But yeah, he's absolutely flustered by that. I do love these little like slice of lifey moments where you have all of these characters that we previously only met in formal occasions, and now we're actually on the same table and even like kind of friendly. Yes, everybody has their ulterior motives. Yes, everybody came for their own reason. Yes, Anastasia probably has her own plans about like why she put out the bait or whatever. But at the same time, we are in a somewhat friendly setting where we can see eye to eye and kind of understand one another before we part ways again and kind of fight against each other low-key. But we're still working together, and I like that because it's a twist on the every camp is for themselves and fighting one another and kind of playing one another angle, right? We are kind of, even if one of them ends up the de facto ruler of the nation, there's a good possibility that some of them are still very influential, and so they have to work together to actually make this country work. So it's very clever to actually invite most of them. But yeah, this is obviously a treat to have everybody kind of just like with the yukata and whatnot. I think it's very interesting how Reinhardt is complimenting Feld. I do wonder if there's more to that or if he's just being courteous, right? I do wonder that, right? Legitimately, I don't know how old Reinhardt is, but he's probably not a lot older than Subaru, even if he's taller than him. So he seems very young. But it's really cool how we have like that. Subaru is like, this is the most wholesome relationship here, and I 100% agree, it's great. but Phil is like, well, right? Because Subaru is like, I have ulterior motives, so this is the most wholesome. And then Fetus like, I do have to. One Crew's like, what? You what? And Subaru's like, all right, I'm out. You deal with that. Really great how she's flustered by it. And no, it was not a joke, Felix. We know it was not a joke. Okay, just stop pretending. I do love how they did the scene. I don't think it's been that way in the light novel, if I remember correctly. It's been just a normal ruminating scene. And here they enhanced that. This is what I love about adaptations, when they enhance the source material. And in my opinion, that is enhanced. It shows a lot of elements, right? It shows him still ruminating on having killed somebody, right? This is his biggest conquest, but also his first kill, or his first real kill. We haven't seen any kills, and he's very young, so. And the angle, right? These are the horror angles in terms of like the atmosphere. We have the red sky and the fish eyes and everything, right? Also, nice view. But yeah, Elsa is dead, but she's still in his head. She's living rent-free because he has a guilty conscience about killing her. And he also ruminates on, like, she is the benchmark for him feeling strong, right? He's like, I defeated that. I defeated this seemingly almost this monster. And basically then we are dealing with the question, but what do I do against somebody as powerful as Reinhardt? What do I do, right? Like, he's so much above me. Can I even deal with that? And how do I process that and accept it in a way that lets me move forward and still feel powerful as a person, right? If people like this exist. But yeah, that's what you have with people like Reinhardt, who are incredibly powerful and talented from the get-go, because this is something he has been bestowed, right? And we'll talk about that later probably, because the Wilhelm Reinhardt stuff is coming up, right? Later, I mean in the coming episodes, because obviously this is a plot point that will continue Reinhardt, right? This too, right? Very symmetrical. We do have like the tall buildings and the archway being overwhelming, right? And her being up there, maybe even like representative in a way that says she has been his goalpost, right? In terms of strength, she's been incredibly strong, and he managed to climb that mountain, but now it's looming over him again. Also, the guilty conscience is looming over him. And although he's standing very, very tall, very, very wide stand, right? Which is the stand of somebody who is, right, powerful and whatnot. There's still stuff looming over him. And she's kind of, and that is great. She's kind of like, you killed me. And he's rattled, and suddenly in your face, right? Completely different atmosphere, completely different vibe, completely going through all of his defenses. He can't deal with that. He doesn't know how to deal with that, how to reject that, how to be negative towards that, right? Because it's not something like, there's this innocence in there. There's this simplicity, right? There's this energy and liveliness in there. He's just gonna let him tag along, right? And look at the sunset together and, right, get his thoughts to a different place, which is, I guess, exactly what he needed right now, right? Having that, he's able to breathe again, right? He's able to, and this is a beautiful scene, beautifully animated as well, right? The way it looks, beautifully drawn. And they form a connection in a way, right? And she's empathizing with that, the uphill battle to become the strongest. Maybe because she herself has something like that too, or because she just knows how it, right? She can just feel how it is. The archways, the golden hour, right? This is why everything is golden. That's why it's called the golden hour. But there we do have a disaster in the making. Garfield being the hero, catching up everybody and being like, hey, don't worry about it. I'll be your hero. He went from down there and doubting himself and being, right, incredibly tense to, right, I'm here for you. I'm the hero. In just a couple of minutes. Just based on what she did for him here, right? Just being there as this positive energy. Sometimes you need that. And we eat the sashimi. Oh, holy shit. That's absolutely amazing. I love every frame of this because it's so detailed, it's so good looking. Anastasia just being in the middle and kind of bragging with her food and the stuff that she's doing. And I thought like Betty was like in tears about how good it is, but actually she was eating. I think this is supposed to be wasabi. She was eating wasabi. She's like, holy shit, this is burning my tongue. My nose stings. Yeah, this is wasabi. The little jokes to break the tension is always great. The little moments. And him bragging, right? Oh, look at this, right? Look at this artistry, right? All of the little stairs and the buildings and how the water is flowing through there, like and the little pots of flowers. There's so much attention to detail in this shot. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And he's so cute and adorable, that the little guy with like a sailor's uniform and whatnot. I think Fred was his name, which is very interesting, right? Fred, and the sister being Mashi's Raphael, Garfield, Fred, Frederica, right? And suddenly he sees a sight that looks kind of almost exactly like his mom. So what is this? What is this? What the hell is this? Random occurrence, right? Look how all of his face is in shadows, right? The two lights in his eyes as like an emotional connection. When we get emotional, our eyes water, right? And when our eyes water, they reflect the light that is going into our eyes more than they usually do, right? This is what this is. This is what this is supposed to represent in terms of like artist, like in terms of like how it's drawn. And then we have all of that darkness on his face, a shadow coming over his face. There's something that is shocking him, right? He has these flashes. He's opening her eyes and he's gritting his teeth, right? He's starting to get almost a nervous breakdown. His eyes are kind of chittering and he's like, Mom, don't know what it is, right? We don't know, is right? And then we flash away. We are right here. A beautiful frame. Two sides almost symmetrical, moon right in the middle, shining down, right? The middle of the night, basically. Very nice and calm blue hues, which are very calming, very serene, very, very down when it comes to energy. And we have the Wilhelm scene. I think I'm gonna like interrupt my camera recording right here because I need to get the memory card in and resync, and I do hope I still have enough space after that. I mean, we have like the stream recording, which I'm also doing, but I want to make sure. These are beautiful frames, by the way. Everything very well done, very well designed and detailed with like the light, the sky, very tiny aspect of the sky going through between like the end of this side of the building and the start of like the rooftop that we can see from the other side of the building. We have the blue hues and we have the moonlight very, very softly shining in. Perfect composition to have a very serene and an intricate talk about something very emotional. In the middle of the night, oftentimes it feels to me like in the middle of the night is a different atmosphere, right? The middle of the night feels like a lot more contemplative, right? Very much aside from the hectic day-to-day, from all the back and forth and the high energy and the having to be ready and concentrated and everything. You can let your thoughts ruminate. That can be a bad thing, right? If your thoughts are going wild and you need to sleep, you have to wake up tomorrow, right? But if you have the time to stand somewhere, to look at a beautiful sight, right? Enjoy the night's breeze, especially in summertime, and contemplate on something alone, kind of, or as two people playing it back and forth. And we'll get into this scene in just a moment. There's a couple of scenes that are still happening, but it shouldn't be too much, right? We're like more than halfway through. I don't want to make it too long either. It's already like super length. Maybe I'll even separate part or all of that discussion, but I'll see you in a minute. The Wilhelm scene is a big one. It's like a big one, establishing this plot point between Reinhard and Wilhelm, grandfather and grandson. Or grandson and grandfather, other way around. Wilhelm thinking on this a lot, contemplating. Right, and he's like, I wasn't good with words, right? I wasn't as articulate, although he is still not as articulate. I mean, he's articulate, he's just not speaking a lot. He's like, my wife kind of like, I love how we're looking down on them, like they're very tiny in a way, right? Just tiny men in a big wide world. Heaven's looking upon them almost. And he's saying his wife made him realize that he was just speaking through the sword, right? He was thinking about the sword before he swung it, and he was thinking like the thoughts that were going through his mind while he swung the sword. That was the center of his entire experience, and his wife made him realize there's more to it, right? My wife helped me see this obvious truth. Ever since then, whenever I swing a sword, I think of my wife, right? Because she kind of put more into his head than just the sword. She was the reason to protect, and she... they were tied through the sword because the sword was her duty, which was based on the blessings she was getting as the sword saint. And while she didn't hate doing it, there was more that she wanted to do. That's how I got the story, right? There was more she wanted to do outside being the sword saint, outside having this duty of the sword. But she accepted it because it was something that only she could do. And this is what Wilhelm gave her, basically, being like, look, I'll take it away from you. I'm going to be better than you, and then it's my duty and not yours. I love this shot. Look at the shot. Right, he's center stage. Left side is lit up, right? We do have the wall being lit up, right? It's white. Right side is complete darkness. A split, right? He's torn on the inside when he talks about that. But his entire statue, everything's symmetrical. It's like masonry. It's like a statue. And what was that? The heroes who leave their names upon history are not heroes every single moment of their lives, and that is 100% true. Right? They're normal human beings before they are that. Your name is spread so much farther than you realize, but I understand you are human, right? I recognize you as who you are. Little bit of shadow on Subaru's face to add that contour, to add that depth, but we do see he's mostly in the light. Very beautiful frame as well, right? The way it's drawn. I do like a lot of the art, how it's drawn in this, like, new season. There's a couple ones which are a little bit low res, right? But even those are okay. I feel like when we have, like, the close-up shots, the detailed shots, they're a lot more pretty than Season 2 was. I might be wrong, right? I might be misremembering, it's been a while. But I feel like that. We're sliding over as we're having that conversation, the quick smile of him, right? And he's admiring Subaru for his ability to speak to people, to be open with them. Going from down up, which is also very interesting. Regrets that he's talking about in his life, and one of them being, right, this is such a representation. His grandson in front of him, his wife's grave behind him. And he's blaming him for the death. Not completely, right? Not for the entire time, not right now, not in all the time between, but he had that outburst, that moment of, I blame you for the death of my wife, right? Your grandmother. This is the conflict, right? There's a reason why Wilhelm blames Reinhard in conjunction with the death of the previous master swordsman, which was his wife. And this is has come between him and Reinhard. Awful beer, by the way. Well, you look a lot better these days. I was irredeemably and unforgivably foolish, right? You blame yourself, but you can't talk about it anymore, right? You don't know how to broach the topic because you feel so much guilt, so much embarrassment, revenge, all of it for revenge. I'm thinking of Metal Gear. I realized I truly ought to approach him, but you lack the courage. And he's like, no, I don't necessarily just lack the courage. It's just, I could not be more ashamed of myself, right? And I mean, I guess he lacks the courage anyway, right? Because courage is the ability to go forth despite shame, despite fear. Amazing, beautiful scene. I love it. Quick flash between the two of them. I don't know if the white wall has anything to do with the awkwardness between you, but Reinhard knows you spent over 10 years avenging his grandma. He wants to know about it, right? He wanted to know about it from Subaru, but Subaru is passing the ball on. He's like, this is a thing you can talk about. halfway in the shadows, halfway in the light, slowly moving his face downwards in recognition, right? In acceptance. He's like, yes, maybe. I'm simply no match for you, right? You inspire me on a daily basis, and we're parting the clouds, right? We're clearing the air, basically, here. And a new dawn, right? That can also be symbolism. A new dawn approaches. And this is a beautiful shot, right? With the tower in front and the sun almost getting past the tower, right? The sunlight coming in and the sun being right there at the precipice of the tower, where we would not be looking directly into the sun and it wouldn't be blinding us. And the clouds being like rosish pink colored, which is beautiful. If you ever seen something like that, a sunset or a sunrise where these pink, red, orange colors are reflecting off the clouds, it's beautiful. And we do have the cityscape in the background here, zooming out, and then we show how slowly the sun is coming in. Why? Because the sun is on one side, right, and it's shining over the wall, and the higher it climbs, the more of the lower areas of the city, because it's like a funnel, is being lit up. Beautiful. It reminds me like of the sequence when we, like in Made in Abyss season 1, episode 1, where you do see Orth for the first time with that sunrise in Orth, and slowly the sun is climbing over the crater, and we do see how slowly more and more parts of the city are being lit up by the sun. We do have the calisthenics. Nice thing that we actually kept that up. We have that little lean in of... these are like the little details of the characters' idiosyncrasies, what they like to do, right? Emilia likes to lean in sometimes, like lean forward, kind of, and looks sideways at somebody. We do have her taking something in and kind of tilting her head at it, right? These are like little things that we notice at different characters. Subaru has his own like things as well, the way he moves and the way he acts and whatnot. Otto is absolutely like, he's been drinking all night with his buddies and whatnot. It's like he's kind of in a sensitive phase talking about Garfield. And the interesting thing is, this could represent Garfield and Mimi, right? We do have them both swimming in the pond in the Watergate City, basically, and swimming along serenely. We don't know where they are, but they're out there, right? Existing together. And we do have the two carps, which are like, those are koi carps, and koi means love in Japanese, so maybe there's some symbolism in there, but yeah. I mean, also with Garfield and his family, right? Possible family, we saw somebody who looks very much like his mother, right? Love the band. Ooh, the separation, you see that? Really cool, right? They exist in like being happy and energetic. This morning he is like, oh. If I call him for a second, he'll be there, and then right out his ear immediately. She's like, leave me the fuck alone. And I love these moments because we don't have enough of them normally. And it just shows how far everybody has come. And that's the great thing. Like, this could be like an OP shot, right? When they show all of the characters, and this is the shot where they show Felt and Reinhardt. This is basically kind of encompassing their characteristics, outward characteristics. We have the joke and then the pan into the sky. Classic. And she's the master of outfits here, right? She's always got the good outfits. I just like to keep track of where I am with like the stream and in terms of like viewers and whatnot. I mean, obviously there's like sometimes one person coming in and staying for a minute and then going out again, but this is how it is in the beginning, right? Especially since 99% of my audience is YouTube and the rest is Twitch. I actually I'm very curious if my stream notification has actually been up. But all right.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Of course. Aragi's has released his reaction to ReZero Season 3, Episode 1. Shout out, Pink. Go watch that if you haven't yet, but you probably have, because this is gonna come out like 2 or 3 days after that. Some of these shots are really great, right? With some framing is just goated, right? The way you frame things. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be all that special, or have a special meaning, but it just feels right in terms of like the atmosphere. You have like these two rooms, right? Them peeking into the room, like Emilia, Subaru and whatnot, and us peeking out to the Anastasia camp, basically talking to one another, and we have like a little window towards that. Krush coming in when we mentioned the letter and like the possible things about like the gluttony thing. But now we are we are making our own food. She's like, Subaru, look, I flipped it over. Look, I can do it. They're all vying for his attention, which is very much a contrast, right, to how it used to be. Right? It's like Subaru was very much vying for everybody's attention, especially Emilia's, for a long time, but now it's like reciprocal, which is a great continuation of their relationship. Oh, just stop it, right? Half cooking, too much sauce. He's like the critic, he's like the food critic. Reinhard is just flipping them burgers, and he felt like, line them up. I'm eating them all. And he's like, I feel like I've just seen something I wasn't supposed to see, which is kind of like seeing Wilhelm in a state of disarray, which is something so unusual for somebody who's so conducting himself so formally and so nobly, and has such a like a knight aura about him, right? And normally is very good at a lot of things. We do have the megaphone coming in with like the announcements and all of that stuff, which is really, really cool and shows the level of technology that the city is at, with like Hoshin having created all of this. And we're hearing like the Liliana song, which I really love, right? The song, but the chosen, who has chosen this fucking song? Was it Anastasia? Did she want to like kind of just make it happen, or was it just like by random chance that we do see like that we do hear the song of Willem, the sword demon, coming up? Either way, beautiful that we use all of this to show the entire city in the morning. Idyllic, busy, right? As a big merchant city would be, right? And everybody kind of, their morning ritual is listening to that, I guess. And he's like approaching the subject. He's like, you know what? I have to break the ice somehow. And I can't do this yet. And maybe he can't do it because he's so much in thought about this thing. And he's like, can you teach me? And he notices this. He's like, wait. Looks down for a second. Looks a bit sad. But then he smiles. He's like, yeah, let's mend our relationship. Right? And this is beautiful, right? All of them are watching. Willem almost halfway smiling and him smiling, and them getting closer to one another, right? And bam! Interruption. Perfect interruption. And we have the reveal. Dad. The drunk, the black sheep of the family, right? Who, I mean, let's think about that, right? We are never just born being assholes, right? So there is stuff. I mean, Willem can have had the best intentions in his life. He did something wrong here, right? In terms of like parenting, neglect, or negative emotions, right? I do think it's probably neglect, because he's been hunting for the white whale for a long time, right? But also, what we get out of this conversation is that Heinkel here blames Willem for the death of his mother. Because he should have been there, right? He should have helped her and not fulfilled his duties. Which in turn also immediately puts that, right? Because Willem put the blame on Reinhard, and maybe even in that way it's kind of like Heinkel already was bad with Willem. But when Willem put the blame on Reinhard, it's also him putting the blame on his son. So he's like, dude, fuck you, I hate you. And there's this conflict coming, because I feel like the stuff between Reinhard and Willem can be mended easier, right? Because it was one instance, and this is like a lifetime of him growing up and being at odds with his father, and then this pivotal moment coming. Maybe he was like the mother's favorite too, right? Heinkel, maybe they kind of had a special relationship, really. And when the mother died, in part maybe because Wilhelm had to find that kidnapper or that kidnapped noble child or whatever. I think it was like the royal family or whatever. Not that important. But yeah, that he blamed Wilhelm. It was like, you should have abandoned your duty and helped your wife. And so we all try to find some external blame, right? To kind of project our suffering onto. That's how it often is, right? Because it's easier that way. We have an enemy to fight, right? If it's nobody's fault, right? If it's the world's fault, then the world is unfair and we can't control it and it has control over us and it's hopeless, right? And hopelessness is absolutely awful, right? We feel desperation at that. We feel like we lose control over our own lives. But by externalizing that blame, by finding somebody who is guilty, even if they're not actually guilty, we can kind of put that onto something and be like, okay, I didn't have control over it, but this person, right? This person is at fault here, right? And they are my enemy now, right? I hate them. And that makes it easier for a time, but it doesn't eliminate the problem. It doesn't eliminate the grief and sadness. It doesn't eliminate the pain you are feeling at the loss of somebody who is so close to you, who you loved so much. And all of these three share that loss, share that pain, but they are divided by it because of the way they coped with the pain, right? Wilhelm with his revenge plot, that was his coping mechanism. Reinhard probably with his incredible sense of duty, right? Trying to fulfill the role that was given to him as the sword saint, basically as the inheritor of his grandmother's legacy. Maybe because deep down, that little thing that Wilhelm said, whatever he said, however he said it, we didn't hear it, did impact him. And there's a little part of himself that blames himself for that, right? That says, because I wasn't strong enough earlier, I wasn't out on that mission, right? And because I became strong enough, or we don't know how the mechanics work, but maybe people believe that's how it works, or maybe people think we don't know how it works, but this could be how it works, and then they're like, this is my fault, right? The wrong timing. And I'm blaming myself, and even if that is not how the mechanics work, you're blaming yourself in a way. Especially if somebody else puts the blame on you, even if it's just in a split second. And Julius being very calm about this, being like, Vice Captain, he's the Vice Captain of the Imperial Guard. We're all off duty, we can't follow your orders, because he's like, put that one down. Or like, wanted them to kill Subaru. And we do have that staring contest, that absolute, yeah. This can't be mended, it feels like, right? Because there's too much hate between the two of them. And Heinkel seems to be the one who is like, putting it on them, basically. Because Wilhelm didn't immediately respond there, and yeah, there could have been a lot of wrong going on, and like I said, right, early on, growing up, probably not been easy. Wilhelm probably done a lot of mistakes, neglect, whatever, right, and then the blame that's going on there, but yeah. I love this scene because we have so many changing frames and shots, right, back and forth and whatnot, like he's in the door frame, like he's intruding on everything. And then we have this shot, which is like a very wide shot, but we barely see anybody's faces. So the emotions are kind of lost to us. We don't know how anybody is feeling about it because we don't see their faces. And all we see is like a fool making a fool of himself, being drunk and being an asshole. And Wilhelm kind of being all the way down because he is being put down by this. There's a lot of guilty conscious stuff going on. Felt heavily looking down on him. And these angles where he's almost not in the center frame, right? Because he's to the side and we're looking past him because we don't really want to look at him maybe, right? And then he's talking about that Adventure Previous Master Swordsman after you killed her, right? And he's putting that on Reinhard, putting those words that probably came from Wilhelm and using them to actually separate the two of them again, right? After they try to mend their wounds. And he's feeling guilty about that, and he's like, stop it. How far do you intend to? Don't bother with the lip service now. You of all people are in no position to criticize me. He's kind of blaming him. He's like, you said that, right? It's different. He regrets it deeply, but it's kind of right. And we're looking at him from like, He's looking from up above, being like, you're a fucking asshole, pathetic, right? But we feel that way about him. And Reinhard just taking it, that is a beautiful frame because he is to the side, right? He's shoved off to the side. He's closed off because he's got his back towards him. He's not looking at him. And he's looking kind of mad and angry at what he's doing here, that he's instigating and everything. But it's his father, so there's some very complicated emotions going on there. And the entire, like the entire rest of the frame is kind of just over there, right? It's taking up so much empty space is there. Reinhard is all the way in the corner, and making him appear very small for his frame. Beautiful. That's the best shot. Even though it's not that detailed, it's the best shot. Both looking down, both feeling guilty, both feeling bad. They're being separated again by the room separator, literally here, right? Although not literally, but like visually on the 2D plane. Him looking at Heinkel, him looking away at Heinkel. Both of them in their own thoughts, right? Almost touching, right? The hair, the tip of the hair of Reinhard is touching Willem's hair. And Subaru is like in a position where he's not dominant, right? He's coming up from a position where he can't talk that much into it, but he has talked to Willem, so he knows what's going on. And he's getting mad on the behalf of everybody here who's feeling the same way. But this is the beautiful thing about Emilia, and I think this is something you should always be highlighting about Emilia, that she has this aura about her sometimes. There's a really cool aura about her sometimes where she says some things that are really, or steps up in a moment where you're like, we needed this. He's like, what have you come here for? And we have that quick flash of Subaru, right? Where he's like, Emilia, what are you intending? He's kind of looking up at her, and her face is very much half of the frame of that side. And he's like trying to fling mud, right? More mud, right? Half demon princess. He's trying to get Subaru and everybody who cares about Emilia riled up. We have Subaru mainly in the frame and just her standing up on the side. But we do still see she's standing at his side. We could be zooming in on Subaru alone, but we see them as a unit, basically. And he's getting mad, but she's like, how you feel about me isn't what we're talking about right now. Stop fucking gaslighting. I mean, it's not necessarily gaslighting, but stop changing the topic. Stop trying to get people riled up and emotional. I ask you questions. I want to know, why are you here? And he's being put aback, right? See, look at that. He's like, shit, my stuff is not working on her. And I think this is a really great thing about Emilia sometimes, that she can be straightforward and be like, also see through these things. That's intelligent. It's like, you are trying to rile all of us up. I don't want to know how you feel about me. I don't want to know how you feel about anybody else. Why did you step into this room, right? What are you doing here? You're not a guest. Answer me. I love that. The shot on the eye. Straight up, right? Looking you into the eye, demanding an answer. And he looks away, right? Because he can't deal with that confrontation, with that level of kind of being on one level of him being like, look, I want an answer. If not, get the fuck out of here. And he can't explain it, right? I love how Felt is basically sitting at the side of the frame and kind of poking into the rest of the frame, which is empty space, with her like fork. She's kind of an outsider in this, basically, but Heinkel has kind of been really pressuring her knight Reinhardt, so there's that as well. And Anastasia's just letting it play out. Really nice how we kind of slightly have the table in here to create like a slightly tilted angle on her. I prefer that this Borscht man may leave. You feel better now, Vice Captain. He's like, are you satisfied? Can you get out of there? Julius being as polite as possible while saying get the fuck out of here. I love how we're stepping in with the heels, because that's kind of what you associate with Priscilla as well. That we're at her heels, basically, in her own estimation. And she's kind of stepping into the frame to save him. But she is using him as a tool. She's at enough talking, enough squawking. And he's kind of... But he prepared everybody. He's got everybody tense. He's got everybody like the emotions out and whatnot. And now she's stepping in and she's like, I'm the uninvited guest. Hello. Right? I know what you're doing. Why didn't you invite me, basically? It's funny that she doesn't, or either doesn't or does pretend not to recognize Subaru. And this is Al, which I like a lot because he has this casual way, right? And he and Subaru kind of have a connection going on. There's some stuff about L that the light novel said that was never mentioned. Do let me know if you want to know that. I can drop that. We don't need to drop it. It's something that happened all the way in arc 1 to 3. If not, we're just going to talk about it in the light novel sections of these discussions. I think I'm only going to do like a light novel section now that I think about it, and I know how long these discussions were just now. I'm only going to do a light novel section every couple of episodes, right? Because at the moment, I feel like there's yet not enough to talk about. So we're going to do that every couple of weeks, maybe. Sounds like a plan to me. Love that frame, right? Her and Al kind of like a duo being attached to one another. And Heinkel is at the side. So what that tells me in a visual way is that while he is on her side, basically, right? He's looking in the same direction. He's standing at the same frame than them. He is kind of just not as close to her, right? She's just using him. The way she looks, right? The way she tilts her head away over there. Don't just say whatever you want, Al. He's like, sorry, I tried, bro. I'm really trying, dude. You answered my question. Was I the one who brought this peasant here? You mean yes. I thought it was funny. I thought it was the devious smile, right? It seemed amusing, and we flashed to Subaru's eye, right? Big shot, taking up more than half the frame and being like absolutely angry. We have the rotating shot of the two of them now being separated again. And now she's in the darkness, basically like a schemer, right? There's a lot of shadows on her while the background behind her is blinding. Neither of us will gain anything from duking it out, and Subaru is kind of getting mad on behalf of everybody here, like I said before. But Betty calms him down, and we kind of exchange some words. She's like Vixen saying to Anastasia. But she's just lashing out, right? They're kind of just exchanging a couple of little jabs. There's not a lot of like blunt hostility going on. That's what Heinkel did take care of. And it did work partially, but it also didn't completely. Right. Also this angle, right? A little girl from the slums thinks she has an opinion to share with me, right? With me, a noble, right? And holy soul, basically. And we do see that reflected in the shot as well. Our camera is looking from all the way up, from her perspective, basically up, down towards Felt, who is lower than us, right? We're looking down upon her. She's looking down upon her. Also, the very fan servicey angle as well. But that is to be expected in terms of Priscilla, because she's also a very outwardly temptuous character, and temptuous characters are often associated with kind of like that sex appeal and that like kind of borderline raunchiness, but not completely, right? She's hot and she's a bitch. That's what we need to know. Right? And she's like, that kind of concerns me. It's about Reinhardt. And we kind of elaborate on the politics, right? He has the estate where the Felt camp is currently situated at. So they are kind of low-key reliant on him. And he's just accepting them there, but he could throw them out at any time, which is kind of power he has over them. And then indirectly, Priscilla has that power over them because he is kind of almost pledging his loyalty low-key to her. There's a lot of tensions going on. Between father and son as well, I do feel like Reinhardt probably has mixed feelings, but Reinhardt is always hard to read because he's very, very polite. He's very, very forthcoming to everybody, even the people who are hostile towards him. Also very interesting how she's like now peasant and kind of like putting Heinkel down again, right? Like a dog, she's only like, right, down dog. I did say sit, right? And we do, in the moment she's doing that, she's creating separation between the two of them, right? She's saying we're not one unit or camp, but we're not tied, right? He's just a lackey of mine. And the visuals represent that by showing the sliding door in between the two of them, like both of their character models on the 2D plane, which I absolutely love. And he's going in and he's moving into her space, right? He's moving past the barrier. He's like, I'm in the middle of an important declaration. He would declare like his support of her. And then she's like, don't you fucking dare come closer to me. And she is very adamant on that separation to exist, and she's also very adamant on him just talking back to her as disrespect, so she wanted to punish that immediately, right? Look at that. This is like, that emotion is like similar to what we've seen when she asked Subaru to kind of lick her feet, and she was like, how fucking disgusting. Right? That is kind of a similar reaction, I do feel. There's the fire coming. I love that effect. That is a really cool shot of her, the side of her eye and the sparks flying basically from the sword, obviously, but also from her emotions. And then Al just interrupts her, and he's like, now, and she... Yang sword, by the way, interesting. One thing to note, I'm just gonna put it out there. The sword is apparently called the Yang sword, as we have read right here. Yang magic is light magic, as we have seen, right? And since Subaru has yin magic, which is debuffs, right? Which is the same as Beako, right? These dark magic, basically. Yang magic, yin yang. You can think about the rest, right? You can think about the rest yourself, I think. Right? Can kind of read the implications. She's just hitting him into the abs a little bit, but he is the only one. He's the only one who can get away with actually stopping her in her tracks, being like, stop. And she's not doing anything. I do wonder what their relationship is, right? How did they meet? Because this is like some very, very much some closeness that is existing there, where she's like just accepting when he is stopping her. That is a unique position he is in, because she would probably not let anybody else do that. I do love some of these shots that have so many layers, right? With like the separating door between Felt and Priscilla, but the open space between Reinhardt and Priscilla and Al, and then we have like the hallway going down there, and we even have the outside, like a little glimpse of the outside. Insane how many different levels we do have here. So is what the old man said true? You're gonna run us out and go back to the domain? Okay, so Priscilla could run them out, like I said earlier, right? That is one of those things. And she's like, don't make me laugh, I ain't gonna take that. Love that shot, right, of Anastasia with the half of the thing, and her with her usual cocky face. I do love that attitude of hers. I'm ruminating on it. We do have our discussion with Julius. Julius looking out in the same direction as Subaru, synchronizing with him, kind of, which is really cool because he's empathizing with him. And we're talking back and forth. He's like thanking him. He's like, thank you, because you were the one who stood up and who was like, fuck y'all, right? Or fuck you, Priscilla, fuck you, Heinkel. Who was getting angry on the behalf of everybody here because everybody was being hurt. Not on the behalf of yourself, but on the behalf of everybody else. You were getting angry. And that helped us to calm our emotions because we felt like somebody is standing in for us. Where we felt like we maybe couldn't because we do have our knight's code, we do have our etiquette, we do have our polite manners and our appearances to keep, but you are kind of in between, right? You're the middleman. While you are part of us, right? And while you do definitely know how to present yourself, you do have this attitude which you had from the get-go, that you are not always being polite, that you're not always holding back. And when you are emotional about something, you show that, even though you have learned restraint, and I do acknowledge that. It is very good that you exist in that middle position, that you can be angry for the other people on the table, and we can accept that as someone of us being angry and talking back, and us not losing or taking it without saying anything, but us still being able to keep up that etiquette that we have learned, that honor. But he's saying, look, this is one of the things that I really like, which is like he's saying, are you covering your heart with armor too? Armor of the heart, huh? And he's looking away, kind of almost in embarrassment, almost like ruminating on that thought, being like, actually, that's a really truly, it makes my ears hurt, right? And that's Tsun way of saying, actually, that's a really beautiful way to put it. We talk about it a little bit, that he could become a problem, right? In terms of like using his Astrea family thing. And we reveal that if Heinkel decided to go up against the kingdom, the Master Swordsman's household would regard him as an enemy. But that would mean the kingdom has no faith in either Reinhard or Wilhelm's son. Kind of weird translation-wise, right? If Heinkel goes against the kingdom, the Master Swordsman's household would regard him as an enemy. But that would mean that the kingdom has no faith in either Reinhard or Wilhelm's son. I don't quite understand that. Do explain to me what that means. I'm very curious if somebody can explain that to me. Either way, we do have, right, a shot from up above down on Subaru. Subaru being surprised, right, being shocked by this revelation. A member of the royal family, yeah, got kidnapped. Talk about that. And this is like great visual symbolism when they talk about Wilhelm being split in two, kind of split in half about his duty and saving his wife, or assisting his wife, the Master Swordsman, in apprehending the White Whale. We do have the two lovers, the two koi, separated by the barrier of those little ferns. I mean, that might not be the case, but it looks like that, and her then being overshadowed by that. Shit, I still want to talk about one thing, but I don't have the time. What do we do? Alright. How we do? I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna be probably ending the stream then. Thank you for coming into the stream if you did. If not, you're probably gonna be seeing this on YouTube. I don't know if you're seeing this exact scene, but you're probably gonna see the overall thing on YouTube. Thanks for watching and everything, and I'll probably see you in just a second. And we're back. Holy shit. Let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up with this last part. We're on the koi scene, and now we're going into the little discussion that Julius and Subaru have, where we talk about just the mere fact that why don't they understand he's not that kind of guy, right? I need that scene again. The battle fought by the previous Master Swordsman happened while Wilhelm Sommer was away from the capital on his search. And that's why he carries such a grudge, right? He's not that kind of guy, right? He wouldn't... If he knew, maybe, right? Maybe Wilhelm didn't even know, that's the thing. I shouldn't have told you all this when you were unprepared to hear it. I get that you're worried about Reinhard. No one would find it uncalled for. Remember what I said, you don't have to obsess over being the perfect courteous knight all the time, and I do love this scene, right? He's like Julius throws that out of like, thank you for being you, right? And we do have that like in the beginning of season 1, right? Like middle of season 1 with arc 3 beginning, Julius teaches him the lesson of like, you could be more courteous, you could be more of a knight, of more representing the knight you dubbed yourself, right? More worthy of that. And now we have the reverse, right? We have the reflection, we have the mirror. He's saying, look, sometimes I know that you need to uphold that image of your knight, right? But sometimes you should just be Julie, right? Be yourself, be just the person and not your title. And he's shocked by that, right? In this capacity, right? Because he's thinking back on the Julie scene, which like he named himself Julie because he didn't want to put a stain on his knighthood by engaging in like a mere mercenary function. And so he put on that alias as Julie, and everybody should remember him as Julie in this operation and nowhere else, right? Not as the knight Julius Chuklus. Or Chukulius, I don't know how his last name is exactly. But yeah, and he's surprised by that statement. I love the Subaru eyes, he's like, fucking idiot. Right, but these smiles, right, they're genuine. There's this real connection between the two of them. Maybe exactly because they are so different, right? And because they started off on such a weird and wrong foot. But also because they were heavily involved in one another and later on realized that the other one might have been right to a degree, right? Might have been justified in what they were doing from a certain point of view, and now they understand each other more, and there's this mutual respect and understanding going on, right? Subaru kind of wanting to be a knight in a way, right? But not being that courteous all the time, not being that reserved all the time. And that's good that way, right? But he's striving for something like that. Strong, steadfast, disciplined. Julius being the other way around, he's like confined by his knighthood, right? He's confined by his code, which he wants to follow because those are his ideals, but at the same time he has emotions that are different as well. He is his own person. He can't always just be the position that he represents, and he feels like Subaru is kind of the person representing sometimes the things that he would like to do, in a way, leaving it more to his emotions. That's a name I haven't heard in a very long time. Well, 1.5 years probably, maybe a little less even. Beautiful how they frame that with just barely the roof inside. They could have done an open sky, but what they do is like the roof slightly tilted from the angle, right? So we're not looking at it like from the same distance, because that part on the right side is further away than the part on the left side. But yeah, and the sky is slightly clouded, but we have a lot of blue spaces in there, a lot of lit up spaces. And the wind is slowly blowing through her hair. This is a moving moment, right? And that's what it's supposed to reflect. And we are standing underneath a shelter from the weather, basically. We are somewhat partially in the shadows, right? Or at the very least under some closed space, but we're looking into the open space. It's representing us, right? Our mind opening up. And you have that sway of the hair. The color of the sky back then looked different from the usual, and now it does too. Like, stop bullshitting me, but he is not, right? Subaru is just putting that up as a front because they have that back and forth. Quit trying to act cool. But he is cool. He is cool. You are too sometimes, Subaru. And we have a casual stroll through the city. And then Emilia with her idiosyncrasies, right? With her, like, she's doing a lot the Sugoku, which is like the one thing that she got from, or one of the things she got from Fortuna. And this one is also a very typical Emilia movement. She's like just throwing out shit like that she imagined Tim and Julius to talk about. And Subaru is putting it as like small talk, but obviously it's more than that. Emilia leaning a little bit to the front. It would also, like we said, this is also behavior that she shows often. Very, very high detailed scene, I see. Nah, but it's fine. It's fine. And we're stepping through, and we're all already like, this is great storytelling, right? We see a crowd, and suddenly there's a guitar, right? And we've seen that guitar before, but even then, it's a guitar. A song is being played, right? And we're going through the crowd, and as we're going through the crowd, suddenly we do see these shoes, which should be familiar if we've seen an earlier scene, but so far it's not identifiable enough to be like, yes, right, to have like a connection going off. But this immediately, the dress, and it's like, wait, Priscilla? Hello? And this is how we then present, basically. And it was a performance she made. And this is one of the ways, I suppose, she's swaying people in her region, right? By being a graceful person that maybe also has a talent for show, right? For dancing in a very performative way, not in a way of like just dancing for the pleasure of dancing, but also, of course, but dancing for other people, right? To show yourself, like a what do you call them? I don't know how they're called. The bird that's showing their feathers, right? Like the really colorful green, bluish feathers that have like very, very impressive patterns. Although that's a male behavior, I think, of that bird species. And we do show a human side of her here. The first time we see a human side, and Emilia's reaction, Subaru's reaction, is spot on. It's like, wait, you can be not nasty? Hello? Right? You can be nice? I didn't know. And that's how we meet up. Subaru kind of forcing a smile. He's like, she spotted me, right? And he doesn't dislike Liliana, but he kind of dislikes her company, I guess. Cool reveal, like with the fountain, and then we break the fountain and suddenly we're all together. was just surprised to see you dancing. I don't dance unless I feel excited enough. And she's very popular. She's very popular. But that is a big scene. She's like, I must decline, right? She's like, you could be my private singer, songwriter, whatever. She's like, no, I am free. Like, I can't be bought. My soul is free. Even though I'm staying with like that dude at the moment, like the merchant, right? Who's really into me. I'm gonna be moving on at some point in time. I'm just gonna be on my way. It's been that way for my mother, for my grandmother, right? We've been traveling bards and we've left behind only our words, right? Or stories, which, right? A beautiful idea. I love that, right? We have like the half. It's not like she's in that half and that half is empty. It's like she's taking up most of the space, but she's up above, right? So she is the one in control, more or less. But at the same time, she's being humble humbly declining, basically. And then we look up into the sky to represent freedom, right? And then the sun rays being thrown off that monument. Right, somebody who is steadfast in, or like who can't be shaken in their foundational core, and their foundational core is the open sky, freedom. Right, and they are unsure what she will think about that, right, because normally she takes what she wants. Subaru trying to mediate, it would probably have the opposite effect, because Priscilla isn't really all that fond of Subaru, but and she's like, I can respect that. And it is the fervor, it is the conviction with which Liliana said that, probably, that impressed her, right? And she doesn't want to cage a bird. And she even admits to being in the wrong. And we explain that. Amelia also shocked again. She's like, wait, you can do that? She's like, the entire world belongs to me. Why would I need to, right, claim it? It belongs to me already. Well, first of all, it's a very poignant statement, very arrogant of her, of course, but at the same time, it's put in a very positive light, right? She's like, there's no need for me to kind of just hoard things because they belong to me anyway. It's a weird way to look at things, but it's also a weirdly positive way to look at things, because that way she isn't desperately trying to claim anything, but she leaves it as it is, because she's like, it's mine anyway, right? Even if it's not with me all the time. Very crass opposite to what you would assume, for example, greed to be, right? Greed. Somebody who is desperately trying to cling to things, right? Right? Trying to take in things in order to, right? Or gluttony, right? Eating. Or maybe even pride, right? Clinging to your pride, being like, this is my right to do things, like Regulus, right? Was Regulus? No, Regulus is greed, sorry. Greed, right? In that capacity, pride was no idea, right? Regulus clinging to his, like, my right to do this, my right to do that. We had that with conversation with Battlegoose and whatnot, where he's like, you're violating my right. She's the opposite of that. Now, obviously, she's still a bitch, but she is that out of her own, I don't know, venomousness, out of her own amusement, right? Out of her own privilege. She is privileged, but she lives that privilege, but also she isn't, maybe because of that, she isn't desperate to cling to anything that supposedly belongs to her. She's like, it's fine. As opposed to somebody who maybe has nothing, or very little, or used to have nothing, and then as a result tries to overcompensate by clinging to it. And we do have, like, she's kind of also the opposite of Gilgamesh from Fate. Very quick Fate universe spoilers. Gilgamesh has always been about, like, everything actually belongs to me, but he's always been like, therefore I'll take it, right? But she's not in this specific case. Sometimes she might be, but, you know, very positive thing. It doesn't matter where the bird chooses to sing. Love this, like, it's a very open shot, despite not showing the sky. Here we have the sky, and it's really complimenting her because she's opening up the arms, and she's like, let the bird be free, right? And the sky behind her is empathizing that statement that she's having. But yeah, we do have that little gag, and then the two of them meet up, and then something happens. This is like a Christ figure moment, right? Or like with like the tower as well, which is monumental, standing above everything, right? And she's like a performer up there, like some kind of theater player who is impromptu, right? Just doing some improv theater up there. The bow as well, right? Sirius Romani Conti, right? And we hear the Romani Conti. That's not what every Witch Cult member does, right? So, and she's saying Rav, representing Rav, introducing herself and having the Romani Conti, which is like, okay, where does that come from? Where's the connection to Betelgeuse? And she has a very poignant design, right? With all of the bandages, with the silver hair, which is also not that often. Interesting how he's like, this joke is not funny at all. And she claps, very well done cinematically. She claps, right? And the moment she claps the hands together and it makes the sound, suddenly we snap to Subaru, who has been interrupted, right? He was like, oh, this isn't, right? This is his scene. He's like, oh no, this is not a funny joke. And he's standing at attention. Like all of his attention is at her. And she's like, don't worry, I'll be, right? She's pointing them out. She's like, you don't belong, right? You don't vibe with the rest of us. Don't be so angry, right? Swaying them with their words. It's like, from the bottom of my heart, I'm very sorry for taking up your precious time. Making an appeal. It feels like she's manipulating them, like on a very subconscious level, right? Being very, very like theatrical in the way she's doing it. I love that shot, right? It's showing the perspective. She's not even in focus, but in focus is the audience she addresses, right? And it's like a sprawl. It's like very, very large. It feels very grand. She feels like she has a lot of power in this very scene. Just being based on like the height of her compared to all of the masses that are little ants below her. And she's opening up her arms to them. And she's naming all of these things, right? Anger, anxiety. She's kind of almost pinging these people, right? You have anger, you have anxiety. I'm pinging you. I'm saying, please don't. Please don't. It's fine. And I'm bringing you all on the same level. On the same synchronicity. And Subaru is asking his questions. He's already in her band, right? He's already being affected because he wouldn't normally just casually ask the questions and whatnot. He would maybe be on his way or whatever. I mean, I guess since she's like Sin Archbishop, blah, 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 he might be more interested in stopping her for whatever she's doing, but he's casually asking questions. And she's just being very courteous and whatnot. You're like, what a smooth operator, and we have her zoom in, right? Go into the camera, basically being like, right, you kind of cheeky. It's very endearing in a way. And she's hopping, and she's being very emotive, right? She's being very cheerful, and I want to make certain of this a matter of love, and she's making the heart and acting embarrassed, and everybody kind of swings with that, right? Everybody kind of falls for that. Obviously, it's supernatural in a way, and her little peek through the hands, perfect. That smile is terrifying, but yeah, I love that. A lot of shows do that, but it's really great, right? You have a character on the side, and you have a character on the side, and they're like doing something with their arms, and they're opening up the arms, and they're throwing them out, and they're very close to us now, right? With the like almost like reaching out a hand to us, or like throwing us back. It depends on the scene, right? Taking in more space, right? Because here we'll like, when we're seen from the side, we're not taking in a lot of space, but here I'm going here and my hand is here, I'm taking in a lot of space, and I'm very close to you at the same time. And this is where the horror comes in. I mean, we already knew that something shitty is going on, but like having a little kid hostage is insane, and everybody's just laughing, like being like parading her, right? What she's saying, like, don't, like, be a man, don't cry so much and whatever, and as if it's the most normal thing. They are all on her wavelength. They're all dancing to her tune, right? And there she's standing all up above, high and mighty, And the interesting thing is, right, she's going there, she's telling the story. First of all, the crying, right? Insane, like kind of like Betelgeuse. Also, very notable. Her ears are very notable, right? Like that is a clear shape. Is she an elf or something, right? Think that, because there's clear difference between like what Subaru's ears are and whatnot, and what Amelia's are, which she's like the model that we can point to when it comes to like half elf or elf, or even like the elves of Elioforest that we've seen. And this is when Subaru is he's already in trance, right? He's already like now we're making it clear, but before that it was already subliminally clear. Now it's actually clear on a visual level. They're all in a trance, and we use that weird sheen effect, right? This like blur effect, also like, and like everything seems unreal, right? As if you're standing next to yourself, right? As if you're just observing the scene, and the red eyes and everything. Everybody's just crying and cheering with her, right? The same emotions as her, and she's holding this guy up, and we're crying like him, and she's crying like him. It's almost like she has this supernatural empathy that she can bring everybody on the same level of that, right? Feel the same, breathe the same, move the same, say the same. Ah, what a kind world. Thunderous applause. Just as all of your hearts are as one now. She's saying it. And then she's dropping him, and he's dropping on the ground. And as he's dropping on the ground, it's not just our emotion who are the same. It's not just everything else that is the same, right? Everything that in our mind that's going on. What's the same is also the physical impact of what just happened to that kid. And we have the flashback. The first one in how long? Right, the first one in how long? It's going relatively quickly, that flashback. I love the red and black. Right. Yeah, just that scene. And it's flashing before his eyes, and suddenly he's awake again. It's like this familiar feeling that I haven't felt in years, right? Because 1 year passed since the sanctuary. Since then it hasn't happened, I would assume. And otherwise we would have probably said that. And he's like, I feel sick. Kimochiwari. And then we have that familiar sheen of his eyes, right? That flickering on insanity, right? The tension that's rising here. He's clutching himself, right? This is what you do when you want to reduce the open space on your body, so it can't be targeted anymore, or you're looking for warmth, right? Because you're freezing out of anxiety here, right? Out of panic. Theatrical malice. Perfect for the ending, of course, right? In terms of like the title, but also in a way the theatrical part perfect for the entire episode, because we had the opening of a theater play basically. It's very interesting that this is Raph, right? That Raph would have an ability to sync everybody's emotions. I mean, I guess in a way Raph can have the ability to mobilize people as one, right? People are angry about things. If they're upset about things, it's very easy to synchronize with somebody. And it's very easy to sometimes override logic by appealing to somebody's negative emotion, especially those who are about anger and fear. Yeah. I would be feeling sick too, Subaru. And then we have the OP, which hopefully is gonna have some nice stuff next time around. But yeah, I'm gonna end it here. This has been way too long. I don't know if I'm gonna separate those, or if this is gonna just be like a 3-4 hour fucking thing. I probably want to separate those, right? Put a reaction in, and then have a little part, maybe the first half, and then do the second half on a discussion. It's kind of weird, but at the same time, I don't want to make like a 4-hour video or something. We'll see how we handle it. Yeah, that's been ReZero Season 3 Episode 1, the triple whammy basically, and what a start into the new season. I can't wait to see more. So far, it's looking really good. I do hope it stays that way. 38 episodes. What do I have to say to that, right? It's 38 weeks of us all, more probably, because it's like 40, 42, whatever. Christmas is in between and whatnot. Of us all watching some ReZero. I hope I'll be there in most of those. And I'll see you next time. Terminus out.